The truth is an irony, just like animal farm. Justice mean inequity. So who go say the truth? Who go say the truth? Christian can say silence. Islamic leaders silence. Kings and queens silence. Traditional leaders silence. So who go say the truth? We are them go get so confused the call. Now by area why no better. We are them go get so confused the call. One guy's out here why no better. Who go say the truth? Who go say the truth? Oh, he need it now, see what's I see so. Now your friend on a nine come at them. Only papi obeka nice and beer. So I want one bet you two. Everybody was afraid. And when Tina to my cottage again nine. Once my boy dumping one and I cheat. But who go tell the truth? Nanai or say me. Nanso bien person beka wasam because everybody is afraid. Anya safwe muayini. Akukudro for nyina dalima. And who go say the truth? Obiaja konson so to grow your mansa to me be a cacobrafo. Efo anyina ye. Efo when you know yet. Na so kutrata down na so be dia back or why no keke. I fene for be man mo pia for efo ne cross on my mo. Hanya safwe mo ayini. Akukudro for nyina dalima. And who go say the truth? Abaya di bote chino. Yedi bi bebo nyande bi. Kachisa would your mouth pipinuma. Would your mind never shine and frafonsa? But who go tell the truth? TUC silence. Even journalists silence. So then who go say the truth? Right is right. Wrong is wrong, no matter how you justify. You say you wanna get rid of corruption. Someone want to help you, now the person become your target. Jobless, no they mean senseless. Poverty, no they mean useless. One day, them go resist.
Wonderful and good evening to you all wherever you are. Once again, it's a pleasure to welcome you to MyView show on today's Ghana News TV. It's always a great pleasure and a joy to be part of your evening every Monday. Wherever you are, once again, you are watching us live on today's Ghana News TV with me, Jerome, your host. And once again, I equally want to remind you that you can follow us live on Switch via satellite, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, all on today's Ghana News TV. And equally, you can get us on Twitter and TikTok, as well as postcard on Anchor FM. It is always a pleasure to be part of the new week and to come your way with MyView show, where I express my view. We take the views of our followers and then we take the view of our guests for the evening, and together we work and we progress for the development of Mother Ghana. This evening, we come your way with another wonderful discussion. His Excellency, the former President John Dramani Mahama, made a promise that the next NDC government would be able to make do with 60 ministers of state. Not only that, we have the research and policy director of one of the wings of the NDC, who has equally come out with a proposal of 22 ministers of state that will suffice for the development of Mother Ghana. What are your views? The 22 very feasible, the 60, whichever. The NDC has an alternative in terms of ministerial appointment. Your views will be welcome in this show. Stay tuned, and when we come right back, I would introduce a guest for the show for you. Once again, you are welcome.
Waiting there happy for Africa. Dusty old men holding on to power, leading the people to where? The grave? Wicked criminal leaders. See them a come, them coming like an angel. But them a thief, them no say them a thief. Mr. President, you coming like a savior. But you a thief, you know say you a thief. Thief President, why a thieving so? Thief man, why a thief so? The people they must suffer, but you don't care so. Thief man, why a thief so? I see the people crying every day, yo. They want food, them can't find. I see the youth looking for a job, every way, them can't find. Mr. President, him just barely food, him and the family, they no suffer. Suffer, no poor man they suffer. Suffer, rich man know they suffer. Suffer, no poor man they suffer. Suffer, rich man they suffer. See them a come, they coming like an angel. But them a thief, them no say them a thief. Mr. President, you coming like a savior. But you a thief, you know say you a thief. Thief President, why a thieving so? Thief man, why a thief so? The people they must suffer, but you don't care so. Thief man, why a thief so? Mr. President, why you dey lie so? Before election, you tell me you be angel. When you sick, you run go a London. When we sick, we die for Kolebo. Mr. President, why you wicked so? Tell me how you dey sleep at night, oh. See them a come, they coming like an angel. But them a thief, them no say them a thief. Mr. President, you coming like a savior. But you a thief, you know say you a thief. Thief President, why a thieving so? Thief man, why a thief so? The people they must suffer, but you don't care so. Thief man, why a thief so? This is Mr. Traitor, Master of sleeping. This is Mr. Traitor, Master of sleeping. Yarambarayi Fiafiwo Alakpatowo Nayeruyaya.
So, welcome back on MyView show on today's Ghana News TV. As I did indicate, the NDC made a pledge of 60 ministerial appointees and want to ask whether it's a reality or yet another campaign gimmicks. And we are very fortunate this evening. There has been a write-up that is making rounds in the media cycles from a US-based researcher who happens to be the head of research and policy of the NDC Professionals Forum USA branch. It is our pleasure once again to welcome no other person but Dr. Justice Salifu, so that we'll have a brief discussion on his proposal and obviously juxtapose that with that of the NDC promise of 60 ministers. Dr. Salifu, you are most welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
It's been a great
Wonderful. It's a
pleasure.
pleasure to have you. Before we go into your into the topic for this evening, I'm pretty sure a lot of people want to know a bit about Dr. Salifu, who he is, and what he stands in our political life or in our academic life or in social life as well.
Well, good afternoon or good evening to your viewers. It's afternoon here, so
Oh, okay.
I know it's evening in
It's
Ghana.
evening here,
To
yeah.
your viewers and listeners. I'm Dr. Justice Salifu. I was a lecturer at UPSA. I taught leadership at the graduate school and also organizational behavior. Currently, I am the president of Monroe Institute. It's an upcoming institute that we're setting up to educate graduates, potential graduate students in Africa.
Oh, okay.
On focus on technology and also entrepreneurship. So that's what I do currently.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. Now we are told that you are the head of research and policy of the NDC Professionals Forum.
Yes.
What's this Professionals Forum all about?
Well, the Professional Forum is a group of members of NDC with interest in professionalism. I know it's very difficult to really identify a professional because you take a carpenter, you take all these people, they qualify as professionals in one breath. But the Professional Forum is a wing that is focused on providing resources to support NDC, resources in terms of intellectual resources and also financial resources. So we are members of the chapter in North America that is composed of Canada and United States.
Wonderful. I think then we have to commend the NDC for taking such a bold step, because if you look at the political parties, I speak with reference to Germany, they all have a research outlets that goes into research in policy direction and try to advise the political parties as how to go about things. And if NDC now has come up with a professionals forum that is geared towards research and policy direction, I think it's going to be a very good thing for the country and for our political development. So we congratulate you and the NDC as a whole.
Yeah, because parties are becoming more sophisticated than ever. Because to communicate, you need research so that you can get your facts right. And also, the parties must continue to evolve such that they meet the demands of the current situation. So parties are becoming sophisticated, and it's a good idea, like you said, that we have the professional wing of the party that is working towards resourcing the party in significant ways so that they can run as modern parties than when they were set up.
Yeah, great. Before I go into your publication that is making rounds and it's hitting all the platforms and the headwaves, we just heard recently His Excellency, the former president, John Dramani Mahama, made a pledge that the next NDC government, come 2025, by the grace of God, they will make a 60 ministerial appointments. Is this 60 for only ministers or ministers and deputy ministers all included?
Well, in context, I think it's ministers and deputy ministers. Because if you interpret it as 60 ministers, then it means we'll have another 60 deputies. That will come up to about 120.
Yeah, I was going to put you whether you want to follow Nana Akufo-Addo's.
Yes, so that would have been actually coming back to where we never want to ever be. Because of our economic challenges. We need to downsize in order to create fiscal space for other things. So when I heard it, I was excited. And the reason is I have always been an advocate for restructuring our government, not just at the ministerial level, but at the technical level, so that we can have smaller governments which work better. My area of expertise is
organization and management. So I've been through a lot of things, and anything that I come across in terms of organization, that is my focus. How is it structured? Does it structure say that there can be rule conflict, rule confusion? Because these things are antithesis to high performance. So we need to always pay attention to that as organizational leaders. So when President Mahama proposed it, I was excited because I know that's the right thing to do. Symbolically, it means that he's ready to go beyond the ministerial level to do restructuring that can make our government efficient and also affordable. You run a government that is bigger than the people you take loans from. It's unacceptable. You look at the US, we have only 15 cabinet ministers. And then other places, the numbers are pretty low. So it's always a good idea to do this symbolically to help create the impression that we are in for, reduction, running affordable government.
Yeah. Now, let's look at your proposal. What are the areas? How do you think we can get to that point where we'll be able to put up this 22, fuse the 22? Are we going to probably fuse some ministries, or are we going to dissolve some and put up probably agencies and others? I was just asking how we're going to work with your 22 and then reduce the entire system. Are we going to fuse some ministries or we scrape some?
Yeah, you see, the statement can be looked at from various angles. In the West, in America, when they talk about small government, it means that government is not very much involved in provision of services. So the Democrats, Republicans, they've been having this debate since the kingdom started, because Democrats believe that government must take charge of many things, healthcare and social services government must provide. The Republicans think differently. They think that that should be given to the private sector. And anytime government gives something to the private sector, what it does is that it means government responsibilities reduces. And that means smaller government. So, but in our situation, we're talking of numbers of, ministries, ministers and ministries. President Mahama, I think, mentioned ministers. But if you interpret it correctly, it's also going to translate into ministries, because ministers run ministries. And therefore, if you reduce the size of ministries, ministers, it means also smaller. You need to reduce the size of your ministries. And that should be the focus. Every ministry is supposed to supervise some departments and agencies. That is their core functions. They've evolved over the years. In the US, for example, we don't call our ministers, we call them secretaries for a reason. Because when they set up their government, they felt that, there was a need for the president to keep certain records and secrets, and they needed secretaries. So if you talk about Secretary of Energy, the core mandate is to keep records of cabinet meetings and other things on energy. And then he serves as the secretary, keeping the secret. Secretary is from the word secret. So he keeps the secrets of the president and the records. That was the concept. But as it evolved to a point, it now encapsulates the fundamental role of a secretary is to also exercise some oversight over certain agencies to make sure that services are provided or the sector is developed. And that is the same as what we have in Ghana. Ministers are supposed to exercise oversight over certain government agencies and ministries on behalf of the president. Because in Ghana, the president is very powerful. We have a very powerful someone would describe him as an elected tyrant because he can basically do anything. So in order to exercise the powers given to the president by the Constitution, he needs ministers to be at different levels of government, supervising ministries, agencies, and also ensuring that policy direction is happening the way they should be happening. So if you reduce the size of ministers, it might not save government a lot, because I looked up how much a minister makes in Ghana, and it's not that much. But the more ministers you have, the more you create rule confusion, because some of the rules are pretty much go into each other. And when I did my article, one area that generated a lot of discussion was when I proposed that the IGP needs to sit in cabinet. Because, you see, IGP is overseeing one of the critical functions of government, executive.
Okay.
President is supposed to be in charge. And when you look at the arrangement now, the Minister of Interior seems to be supervising those agencies on behalf of the president.
Yeah.
But when it comes to security and some of these functions, they are very critical. And the president should have direct responsibility in some fashion, so that within a minute he can make a decision, having all, with all the information available to him. But if he has to go through the IGP, Minister of Interior, before he gets to the IGP, the layers actually impede, immediate action. So I believe we should take away the Minister of Interior and then let the president deal directly with the IGP. And in that sense, the IGP will also have to be a little bit, just like the EC electoral commissioner. He should go through vetting. That kind, we can scrutinize him to make sure that he's somebody who can do the job for the president and sit in cabinet. You take the CDS. CDS is a technical person. He's a military officer. And he knows a lot about the military than the defense minister. So why do we have defense ministers? Because the Constitution vested the power of CIC in the president. President is the only person that can wear uniform. So he is considered as part of the military chain of command. He's on top of the organizational chart. So when it comes to decisions, he can move military just tonight. If you want Ghana military to attack Togo tonight, he can just authorize it. So there's no need for layer between him and the person who can also move troops. The Minister of Defense is a politician. In America, they still have these things like Minister of Defense because the defense budget is about 1.7 trillion. That's a lot of money. So they want someone to be in charge of the administrative wing to protect the public purse and then make sure that things are going on right. But in Ghana, you look at our military activity, it's pretty low. And I propose that the CDS instead should sit in cabinet, talking directly to the president, and then handling critical issues involving the military, rather than having Minister of Defense as a layer or as a middleman between the government and the CDS. So now if you look at other ministries, because the responsibility is oversight, Parliament is also exercising oversight over some of these ministries. Why is the president does the same thing with his ministers? So we can realign the ministries. And then some of them, we should scrap them all together. We have Ministry of Information, and you can get more information from Facebook than the Minister of Information. So who is the Minister of Information working to, whose interest is the Minister of Information advancing? Because he's supposed to be communicating to the people and also taking the people's views to the government. Facebook can do that. Technology allowed every ministry to have the capacity to communicate effectively directly with the people. So we can eliminate those. You take Ministry of Chieftaincy, we don't need that. The chiefs are capable of leading. They also have organized system. They have the National House of Chiefs, and they are usually part of the political system and the Council of State. So we don't need the chieftaincy ministry. We don't also, in the US, when you hear Ministry of Interior, it deals with what currently in Ghana, the Ministry of Lands does. The Minister of Interior in the US is in charge of resources of the country and also in charge of the, you know, whatever the Minister of Interior is doing in a limited way. Minister of Interior is supervising security agencies in Ghana. We don't need that if they can stand as independent. So now we will have the Ministry of Lands doing what the Ministry of Interior is supposed to do. Now you take roads and transport, they should be together. There's no need for railways. We have railway ministries. We don't have railways. Now you take local government. Now the local government system is also very complicated in Ghana. Article 55 of the Constitution, some time ago, there was advocacy to actually amend it. And I think the president wanted that to happen. And that would have been a good idea. Because once we elect DCs, there will be no need for regional ministers. Because the regional ministers should not take orders, the MMDCs, when they are elected, they will owe their position to the people, and they really report to the people, and not a minister who also report to a minister. The minister of local government can deal with all issues related to the governance at the local level. But you see, currently, the president needs some presence in the regions. So we can still give him the regional ministers until we amend Article 55 to allow DCs to be elected directly by the people. When we reduce the size of government that way, it will give us the leverage. It will give President Mahama, if he reduces that, to now go down every agency and look at some of the costs we can eliminate. I don't like getting people out of work because that affects the economy. When you take people out, it means they're unemployed, they can't patronize the goods and services, and it's going to weaken our the economic stimulation. So what we can rather do is to make sure that the president starts at the top, from the top, get the ministries realigned, and then reduce the number of ministers, and that would tell everybody that government is willing to reduce its size and to make it say that we have affordable government. So President Mahama's proposition for me is good, but the 60 for me, well, from where I say it, is still a lot, and we can do that. We can do more. If he starts with that, at least it will create the impression that he wants to reduce the size of government, and we can reduce it further. So in my article, I did some, alignment on my own to see what can be together. So I propose that Ministry of Agric and Fisheries goes together. Transport, roads, and highways can come together. Then we have education, sports, human capital, if we want to create that also, to come under education. Then we have the science, innovation, and technology, where you can infuse public sector reforms into, because innovation has to do with changes, and also science will give the impression that the government wants to focus on development of science and technology. Now we have the Office of the Attorney General. Also, we have health and social services. In America here, that is the way they are linked. We have the health and human services, and they do the same thing, because you have welfare programs that should come under health. Because if you have, socially served people, then it's also going to mean healthy people. So we can link them up and create a ministry that will promote the health and then social welfare agenda. We have housing. We can develop housing and other infrastructural facilities. So if we have housing, we can dovetail it with infrastructure, so that ministry will be responsible for all infrastructure in the country. We have infrastructural fund that President Mahama actually established. That was a good idea. So this would come under the housing and the urban development or housing and infrastructure.
Okay.
Now, local government, we can keep it this way, the way it is now. Rural development is pretty good. It's a critical function of every government. So President Mahama can maintain it and then try to use it to develop our local resources and also help to organize local communities for development. Then we have Ministry of Labor. It can be that way because it mobilizes people, it superintends over the our labor laws, it protects the interests of workers and all that, which is very, very important as a country that is that subscribes to human rights. Then foreign affairs can remain the same. In my research, I found out that some countries don't use foreign affairs because they want to place focus on what their ministry does. So it's like international relations. So we can designate it as a Ministry of International Cooperation, but we can still leave it that way with the same functions. Then we have Ministry of Communications. Then we have Trade and Industry should stay the same. And
you want Ministry of Communication to stay alone?
Well, because see, Ministry of Communications can be dovetailed with technology.
No. Okay.
You see, so we can collapse that ministry, but because of my advocacy for development of science and innovation, we can put all of them together in one ministry.
Okay.
And make sure that that minister superintends it and promote policy in that area. Then Ministry of Energy, we all know how important it is. So oil and others will come under that. So once we get to this point, then we have the Ministry of Finance, which is very important. Achampon kept the Ministry of Finance at the presidency, but I will not advocate we do that because of the challenges that we have in our country today that has to do with finance. Then we have tourism and creative arts, which is very important, but I want them to add certain functions to it. That is that is not traditional. Okay. Because if you look at education now, education tourism is a critical area of the world economy. If you accredit your universities well internationally, students from other countries will come in and they bring a lot of foreign exchange to the country. So government should place emphasis on that and make sure that the tourism ministry assume a bigger role. Now you take health tourism is also very important. President Mahama started that with the Legon hospital. And the idea was that instead of someone in Sierra Leone going to US to get medical attention, they would rather get it in Ghana. And they come in, they fly on our airline, they come through our airport, they eat our food, they live in our hotels. All those are going to stimulate the local economy. And we should put emphasis on that.
Okay.
So after this, then the next proposal is the Chief of Defense Staff I've already talked about, and also the IGP. They can all sit in cabinet. South Africa, for example, has Minister of Police who deals with police issues, but sit in cabinet. So we can replicate it by allowing the IGP to sit in cabinet. So these were the things that I propose.
Yeah, even in that area. Actually, I side with you very much because one, in terms of the role conflict, we have Minister for National Security, we have a Minister of Interior, we have Minister of Defense, and you can name them, and it's all about the security of the country. So at any point in time, who is directly responsible? It becomes a problem. A Minister of State at state security or whatever it is. So you wonder where all these people are coming from. Why can't we put all of them together under one umbrella of security? Yes, you rightly said, if we have the CDS sitting in there, then it means that there's no need having the Minister of Defense. It will go a long way to help a lot.
In every organization, when there's rule conflict, it's going to limit the potential of the ministry to perform its core functions. So I always see that as an aberration because you have too many people you are reporting to. So action is immobilized in some sense. And also decision making becomes very difficult. There's an attack on Ghana. You are looking for Minister of Defense to discuss how to get when the president. You can just discuss it with the president as CDS, and then you try to take out. When it comes to IGP, it's the same. They should be enforcing the law, dealing with the person that has been entrusted with the responsibility of maintaining law and all that, and that is the president. You see, our constitution was crafted at the time. People will say is the hairdressers and then the little people who prepared who drafted the constitution. Not a bad idea at all.
Yeah.
But we need to start reviewing some of the provisions so that we can make the constitution work effectively. Because if you look at the presidential powers, they are too much.
It's too much.
When America created their government, one of the biggest challenges they faced was naming the chief of staff. The commander-in-chief. So people came up with all kinds of things. And the fear was that is why in America, they don't use His Excellency. Because they felt if they give the president the chance, then he's going to become very powerful. So in order to limit it, they gave it a name, just the president. So they call him Mr. President. That's it. They don't need His Excellency and all that to make the person so powerful. Because once the president is powerful, then democracy is going to be weakened. So the idea of creating our government, the intent should have been the same. But at that time, we had President Rawlings, who was the chairman. So they wanted to retain some of his powers. And that is why we are still, the way we are. And our president is very powerful. Once he comes in, he appoints a lot of people, and they look up to him instead of looking up to the people. So we need some effort to correct some of these things.
But that is very true. Let me get something clear here. As a minister, you are supposed to be representative of the president at a particular ministry to supervise it there. Are you just there to take instructions, or you are there to give an advice to the president? You should be in position to tell the president if a policy is not in the right direction.
You see, there are too many advisors to our presidents, and that is the other side and another big topic that can be discussed.
Okay.
If you go to the president, he has advisors.
Yeah.
If you go into the constitution, it says Council of State should advise him. He has the first lady who also advises him. So if it is a female, then there is going to be a first gentleman who will be advising. So there are a lot of advisors around the president. And I think it shouldn't be that way. We need to critically look at Council of State. The minister should not just be playing advisory role. What they need to do is to look at the systems, the agencies under them. Where there's effective reporting, they can tell, is one agency working or not? You look at most of the organizations that government own in Ghana, they don't make profit. They are more vampires on the resources of our country because they are owned by government.
Mm-hmm.
In America, motor vehicles are not owned by government. They are private entities. But everything they do, all the rules, regulations, everything by the government. Because the government wants to make sure that they are done the way they should be done. So some of the motor vehicles are owned by private people who oversee it, implementing the rules of the government, so that there won't be a situation where government is funding certain activities and getting nothing in return. So I think if we want to really make our government work, every minister should have that core responsibility, not just advise the president, but go down. For example, we need to cut down the size of our government. We need to go that road with the ministers paying attention to what is going on and see what they can cut down so that the government can afford what it is supposed to do. Because if the government is big, we have all these, leakages happening in the agencies, we're going to have a big problem in the future. And we've started having them now. Now, if you look at President Mohammed's government, in 2015, they weed out a lot of ghosts, from the payroll. So I remember Mr. Arthur was asking, what are ghosts doing on our payroll instead of being in cemeteries? And it's all because we don't have effective supervision. If you have an agency and then there's Kweku Menu, you keep seeing that name, but you've never seen the human being, and then someone is taking salary in that name, you should be able to figure out this at some point in time. So ministers must have that core responsibility to go down and supervise whatever is going on. And the more we get efficient people who are qualified to do the work, the more they can do that. What the Constitution is silent on is the competence of ministers. What is the qualifications of a minister? It just tells you that if you are a voter, if you are this. So the president can practically, appoint anybody, and parliament can approve anybody. Now they talk about sanity. They say you must be saved. How do you determine sanity? So people are appointed and they go down there and they don't bring any innovation. And what I learned in graduate school is that anytime you have employees for 2 years and that employee has not come up with anything new, you need to get rid of them. They are not productive. They should be able to add some value to what they do. So president should give every minister mandate, but it must go beyond advising or just overseeing what is going on. You must be able to provide direction and also be able to identify certain problems and recommend solutions if you don't have control over that. If you can solve the problems, you go ahead and solve it. Then we can have efficient ministries that are delivering service to ensure efficient private sector. Because currently we don't have, the private sector in Ghana is so, sometimes it's counterproductive. It's not able to stimulate economic growth the way they should, because the organizations within the private sector have certain retrogressive culture, and the private sector culture in Ghana is helping them to do that. Open a business in Ghana and want to open bank accounts. You go through all kinds of obstacles. They'll tell you to go get auditor report. It's a new business. Why do you need that? In the US, because private sector controls that, you establish business today, information is sent to the banks. All of them know that there's a new business that has been opened. Then they start contacting you. You want to open business for your, accounts for your business. So they should be following us with some business sense. And this can all happen if the minister also go there and have some entrepreneurial thinking. He should be there and then linking up everything to how, whatever they are doing at the ministry, how it can help the private sector. And when the private sector develop, it means that people can be employed. We can now tax businesses and don't have to take loans from China and other places. That makes our country look
I'm just hoping, praying that the Professionals Forum, you'll be able to put a lot of things on the table for the NDC. I say this because if you look at the appointments that are done in the country, it's more or less a reward system and not about how effective or efficient one can be to champion the progress of the country as a result of the promises in the manifestos of the various political parties. Yeah. Do you also see the same thing?
No, I see it the same way. You see, if you go to Congress in the United States, 70% are millionaires. And it's that way for a reason. Most of them don't care about what they get from the ministry. Yeah. They don't have all the incentive. In Ghana, we still have height allowance. We have clothing allowance for ministers. Why
Sure.
can't you just consolidate the salary and give it to the minister? This is how much a minister receives. So there are all kinds of, and they tell you, oh, when the minister do this, they can claim this. You see, so in the end, there are a lot of loopholes down there. People should be in government to provide service, to create honor for themselves. And that is what is happening in advanced countries. You go there, you are a congressman, you want to be honorable. So you do things that will create, that will develop your brand so that your children will grow up and also benefit from that. But in Ghana, it's about money. Sometimes it's a source of employment. So when the president comes in, he's saddled with that. I remember we met President Mills as a US group, and he said, look, it's not easy because you are in office and you make an appointment. Your friend comes to you and you tell him, oh, I'm going to make you the board chairman of library board. And they will come back because they start to feel down because you are sending them to library board instead of Bank of Ghana.
Oh, okay.
So he said, look, if anybody thinks that way, a majority of people in Ghana thinks that way, then they have intention when they are going to Bank of Ghana. They want to manipulate the system. They want where finances are. So service should be the core reason why people go into certain positions. And the president definitely cannot do without appointing certain people because he thinks it's a reward, like you said. And the reward system, if we develop a vibrant private sector where people can own businesses, where people can create their own prosperity and don't need to pre on the back of the people to do so, then leadership will now become something of a service that is supposed to be. So people go there, they don't expect you don't expect the secretary to be given Land Cruisers. As a matter of fact, when you're running for president in the US, you cannot drive a foreign car. If you drive a Mercedes, they see you as anti-American. You must be consuming American products. So you see, all the politicians, they drive American cars. There was one candidate who drove Mercedes, and that became a label. He had to go out of the race because he was tagged as an anti-American.
Okay.
So we should also be able to create that culture. It's going to take a long time to do that. But symbolically, the president can start that. And you see, our constitution even worsens the situation. It says that majority of ministers must come from parliament. And that means that you should do everything you can if you want to be a minister to become a parliamentarian.
A parliamentarian.
And under that arrangement, people are basically now buying the seats.
Yeah.
Because to win a parliamentary seat in Ghana, and it's not secret now, no party is mad when you go and spend so much money and win the seat. So the political morality we're supposed to have is so dissipated to a point we can, I don't know how we're going to restore dignity in some of these things. And the citizens also support that. Because once you become a minister, you have this free Land Cruiser from the taxpayers, resources, and all the things that you have. They tend to glorify you. Wherever you go, you have the front seat. So everybody wants to be it. I remember in the past, when I was growing up in the 70s, my father ever ran for parliamentary seat. And whenever they go to the villages will rather give them yams, guinea fowls, and all that. And they'll give them political symbols. This time it's the other way around. When you go to the villages, they don't even have yams to give you. You rather need to give them money.
Yeah.
And they have become accustomed to it. So that societal behavior is reinforcing the behavior of the people behind the president. And also the president will have to spend a lot of money in order to win elections in Ghana today. It's not like the past when people will come out and volunteer. Seriously, Rawlings created the consciousness, but we couldn't sustain it. For Rawlings time, people said, after Rawlings left office, what I was told was that some of the ministers didn't even know where to go after they left their bungalows. because they couldn't build houses. They were all afraid to do certain things. And that is the atmosphere we need to create. You know, we know if to become national chairman of a party, you have to give delegates a lot of money. Whatever you want to become, you have to pay people. So everybody is doing it, and everybody has now come to agree that it's a normal practice.
Yeah.
And the more you normalize those things, the more you are preparing the grounds for future generations to suffer.
That is very true. Dr. Salifu, we'll take a little break so that we can take the viewers from our followers. But when we come back, we'll look at it from another angle. Even there's a question that is coming up, because I was looking at it that because of the president's powers by the Constitution, a lot of ministerial appointees will have to just kowtow to the president so that he doesn't fire them. But when we come back after I have read the messages from our followers, we'll tackle that one.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay. So once again, it's a pleasure having you. This is our evening's program, MyView, on today's Ghana News TV. And I want to take a bit of the messages from our followers this evening. Starting with Alanda. Alanda, very good evening, brother. More grace and wisdom. We're grateful that you are part of the show this evening. Honorable Tofik is right there, our Honorable Zongo Caucus coordinator. Good evening, comrades. Tofik from Mönchengladbach. Tofik, we're grateful you're part of the show. Oh, Bob, once again, fantastic guy. Dr. Salifu is very knowledgeable, but I think 22 ministers won't be bad at all watching from St. Petersburg, Russia. Bob, we are grateful you're part of the show this evening. Mavis, we are grateful that you are part of the show once again, watching from Portugal on YouTube. Downsizing government is the best way to go, and that is what John Mahama is proposing. God bless him. Mavis, we hope that this will come into fruition when he wins power come 2025. So, and Buffy is here. Oh, great that you are part of the show this evening, Ohini. He said, Doc, I'm enjoying the program. We're grateful that you're enjoying it, and keep sharing the links, and let's get many more people to get educated and well informed. Thank you once again, Buffy from Pond. Buffy, you're back. I'm enjoying the program from Paris, France. Okay, God bless Ghana and the NDC. God bless you too, my brother. Nanata Fremu, watching from Tatali, Northern Ghana. Greetings from Sakina Information Center. Well, now, we are grateful that you are part of the show and you are extending it. Osei Superior, good evening to you, doctors. I'm enjoying the show from Barcelona, Spain. Osei, we are grateful once again. Oh, Almighty Tofik, I only know that in Germany, Interior is in charge of sports. That is wonderful. And back home in Ghana is the other way around, more about security and all that. Kunti Nana, Kunti, happy birthday, watching from Poland. We are grateful that you are part of the show this evening. Emma Davins, good evening, comrades. This is Emma, Frankfurt branch, Germany. To Dr. Justice Salifu, you just stated that in graduate school, you learned that if an employee has not been innovative and productive within 2 years, they ought to be fired. In your opinion, does our party practice this? If not, how do you think this can be effected? In our party at the moment, we see many leaders who are just outmoded, while many have no clue what their various roles are, apart from shouting, Eyezu, Eyeza. Eva, we are grateful for your question. When Dr. Salifu comes back, he will make. I'm sure he will answer it for you. Laila Mahama, we are grateful that Laila, you are part of the show. Say good evening, comrades, watching from Germany. Bielefeld, we are grateful. Laila, you are we are here again. You are really doing very good job. Say, Senior Jerome. Oh, thank you very much. I'm grateful, Laila Mahama, for joining us, and we appreciate your comments as well. So we will bring back Dr. Salifu, and then we will look at the question that has just come up. And I'm pretty sure he will do justice to that. Now, before we look at the powers conferred on our president, that might be the problem why ministers are unable to be very frank with the president. There is a question that comes from Emma Davins. She says she's a member of NDC, Frankfurt branch in Germany. Now, to her, this is her concern. That you just stated that in graduate school, you learn that if an employee has not been innovative and productive within 2 years, they ought to be fired. Now, her question, in your opinion, does our party practice this? Does the NDC practice this? If not, how do you think this can be effected? Because for her, in our party at the moment, we see many leaders who are just outmoded, while many have no clue what their various roles are, apart from shouting, "Hey, Yezu, hey, Yeza."
Well, like you said, it's a very difficult question, but simple. You see, the way our party is arranged, and I think our party is more democratic than our government. Because you see, if you are the chairman of NDC, you cannot take certain unilateral decisions. I got to find out that even the general secretary, sometimes he signs suspension letters, but he cannot suspend anybody. It has to be FEC doing that. And the general secretary is only acting on behalf of FEC. So the way things are arranged is very difficult for an individual to come in and launch a revolution and say, oh, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change that. And sometimes because we are not insiders, we don't understand what they go through. Yeah. Sometimes there are things. Recently, I was having a conversation with someone, at the national level, and they gave me a lot of information, and some of the views that I held before were completely changed because it's an institution. The party is a giant institution that you are running, and there are a lot of issues. When election is coming, you see a lot of petitions that will come. And they go to the general secretary. So I wonder how he's able to read all these petitions and act on them. Now, it's an evolving process, and I think we have to help them. We need to be calling for certain type of reforms. It's not necessarily just changing persons. And the way Ghana politics is, the environment doesn't change very easily. Yeah. So they remain the same. And the people who have been in it, they are very knowledgeable and experienced about it. So if you sit with any one of them, you're going to come to terms with, what they are doing. What they are doing. We need that type of, leadership to deal with the current situation. And if we want that to change, let's start it at our own level. I have my certain criticisms about the party. I look at it. In the US, you take Democratic Party, for example. They have more organizers than vice chairman. In Ghana, we have a lot of vice chairman. So the chairman role is to chair meetings and do some other leadership stuff. And then when he's not there, the vice acts on his behalf. Now we have transformed it into something else. We have a lot of chairman. And they're doing that because of diversity. That's my sense. Okay. The Constitution will not say it. But they're doing that because they want someone from the Zongo. They want someone from this region. They want someone from there. And the vice chairmanship gives them, the multi-vice chairmanship gives them the opportunity to do that. But when you come to the lower level, I want them to increase the number of organizers we have. For example, we should have polling station organizers, like 5 of them. Because party is voluntary work. On election day, you have 5 organizers at the polling station. Now you take even the national organizer. He's so overwhelmed. We need to regionalize it. So every zone, just like the vice chairman have their zones, we should have many organizers at the national level, and they all have their zones. Because they practically go to organize. Yeah. And party is organization work. Democrats, Republicans here, they don't have national organizer. But they have more than 1 million organizers at the local level, because that's where elections takes place. And they place so much emphasis on it. Recently, Georgia, we've had a couple of times the Democrats won the Senate elections over there. Okay. It was something nobody thought would happen. But when they strengthened the local level and brought in C.J. Abrams' organization, they were able to do it easily. So I think our national leaders, I don't think we necessarily need to change them, but we need to change the system. And those of us who are down the ladder, we should, in our small way, finding innovative ways of doing things. And when we do that, the people will also see and want to go along with it. And ultimately, we will change it. Other than that, the current system is a product of what has always been the case and the product of the Ghanaian society that makes it that way. So at some point when we change it, then we can change the leadership. So I 100% agree with them, caller, and we need to work together on this to change it. Like we didn't have professional forums. NDC was seen as parties for the veranda boys.
Yeah,
When we
veranda
were in
boys and
Legon,
girls, on we go.
yes, when we were in Legon, even people who were professors, whatever, and were members of NDC, their colleagues saw them as not up to that. Perfect. They were veranda professors. So it has been that way, and now that professional organizations are emerging from the NDC, I know there's going to be a lot of changes. Because when President Mahama, announced his candidacy and most of the issues that he raised, Professional Forum, my department is considering analyzing it. And we just started yesterday, on Sunday. We want to look at everything from a technical point of view and try to see whether we can advise him to contextualize most of this very well or implement them. Like we talked about the size of government, it's something we can do collectively. If you bring consultants to do this, they take a lot of money from you. But we want to serve our country. So we want to start the conversation right now. How is it going to do it? How is it going to reduce the size of ministries so that can create our national character that people will embrace? And also, when we cut down or we realign at the lower level, they will understand that the top has also gone through the same process.
I'm not really sure we can even talk about this, the powers conferred on the president that might make ministers not perform. But I am more concerned about one thing. The NDC in the diaspora, from where I sit, I think you have a greater role to shaping the policies and even the organization of the party back home in Ghana, because you are not directly under the administration when the party is in government or not in government. But what seems to be the norm is that those NDC members who are even outside, they are all eyeing for political appointments in the country, so they are unable to tell the authorities in the face that some of the policies are wrong. Where do we sit as NDC in the diaspora?
Yes, NDC in the diaspora, we have that advantage. I ran for the chairmanship. I withdrew at some point, so I didn't get to contest. Okay. But I had like 35-page point agenda. And that was to transform US so that US can become the example for all diaspora and even in Ghana. Because my goal was to take down the vice presidency, do some reorganization proposal, so that if our leadership approves it, we can then have a very streamlined administrative setup in the US. See, in the US, we have been freed. You don't depend on anybody.
At all.
People want to be ministers, they want to be that, but some people became ministers or gotten some top level jobs and they had to come back. It's not easy as you think. Many people think. So when they get into positions in Ghana, then they begin to feel the heat. Because the thing is that here we work for private sector organizations. So they hold us accountable for whatever we are doing. I was with my friend who was a very high officer in Ghana. He had lived here for a long time. And then he got a position in Ghana. So they were doing orders for his tea. I said, why are they giving you tea in the morning? So he said, when he came, he questioned it. Because in the US, they'll give you coffee so you don't sleep. And the coffee is located at one point. The head of the organization and the ordinary person, they all go there to take a cup of it just to keep awake. Now, Ghana, they give you all this. So he said when he came in, he was questioning so many things, but nobody was listening. So when nobody was listening, he also kept quiet. And that is the system. So those of us in the diaspora, one advantage we have is we can tell the truth.
Yeah.
Because there are certain things that you are already exposed to. And you know how to enjoy freedom. But you see, there has to be some collaboration. Some of our leaders, trust me, they are open to ideas, they are open to so many things. But the diaspora will have to get engaged. The diaspora mustn't think that the system is fine. When they come here, we have to tell them the truth. Look, the policy forum that we created was one of the ideas I floated. When we are in power, some of our branches will even become defunct.
Yes.
Why? Because they feel that all we need to do is to raise money and support the party in Ghana because we don't vote. So when we do that, it takes the government away from us in the diaspora. So my proposal is that we keep a forum, a platform like this. So we continue to discuss policies and tell the US, if you are even on the streets, you have a lot of ideas because of the way things work here. You can use this.
Let me, I think the issue of reorganizing and putting the diaspora in a very good position, it should be a topic on its own.
Okay.
So that we tell our people up there, all the NDC members in Germany, in Holland, in Italy, in US, in Canada, who are all watching, we will create another day that we have to sit down again, one-on-one on the same platform, and then we share this and we expect all of them to pick something out of it. If we are able to speak with one voice, we will make NDC a better party back home in Ghana. That is my thinking.
Certainly.
Unfortunately, the time is up, but I'll give the opportunity to share a few words with our viewers. Some of us were privileged to have listened to you yesterday on the Zoom presentation, and a lot more from our chapter were able to join as well. And we know that with time, we will always join the professionals forum. But you have the opportunity to talk to every other member.
Yes, I want our people to have a lot of energy. You see, I ran for the position. I didn't get to become chairman, and I feel great about it. It's not about individuals occupying positions. I want our leaders in Ghana to know that sometimes they see us as people here fighting. If we are not fighting, that's what America taught us. We question people. We question authorities. We discuss things passionately. So sometimes we do that and it becomes excessive. It looks more like we are fighting. But there's absolute unity, especially 2024. We are so ready, and every energy we have is going to be put into use so that we can demonstrate to Ghanaians that the diaspora is a viable, group that can help the party to do so many things. So there are a lot of issues, like we said, we can discuss that can benefit the party. And I want the party the leadership, we have new leadership, they should develop the culture of listening to the grassroots, listening to the diaspora. There are a lot of reservoir of ideas. When we did the forum, I could see a lot of ideas flowing. Sometimes you don't need to be in government in order to contribute these things. Sure. But let's have a platform outside government. When we are in power, instead of us disbanding and then start blaming people in Accra, they've not. How many ministers can they appoint out of NDC? We have a lot of people, so there has to be few, and the few must open themselves up for those of us who will be down to talk to them, to give them ideas, to give them resources, so that we can feel good about it. I helped the minister to accomplish AYBZ. Let us also brag about it. But that will always come from leadership temperament. Let's develop that, and then people will not be in the ministry when we come to power, running around with resumes trying to find jobs that they can find even in America that pays better. So let's open ourselves for input from the grassroots and people that traditionally they don't sit in the constitutionally mandated setting like FEG and all that. There are people outside it who can offer a lot to the party, not just money, but also various resources that can give us the right party. After all, the party will be, be a legacy that we should leave to. It will be part of the inheritance of our children. So we should make it a very good organization. So our children will run it and appreciate the work we have done.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Dr. Salifu. It's a privilege having you this evening, and I'm pretty sure, as I said, it's a promise we will have you again on this network so that we can discuss how best the diaspora we can put ourselves together to help Mother Ghana and to make Ghana a better place for all of us. We are very grateful once again.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Great. So wherever you are, once again, this has been MyView show on today's Ghana News TV. And we have been looking at the pledge of the NDC of 60 ministerial appointees and now fusing in 22 of them. Wherever it is, there has been a clarion call from Dr. Justice Salifu that your party is what you are going to leave as a legacy for your children. So do what it takes to make it a better party for yourself, to make it a party that is out there to rescue Ghana from wherever the situation has taken us to. Once again, it's a privilege having you on MyView show on today's Ghana News TV. Join us again. On Friday, we have a special edition with a parliamentary aspirant. They're assessing the grounds. What's the way forward? Is NDC ready for power? Join us once again. Until then, good night and may God bless you all.
Mampam, also on tea, so do go be.